Hello, everybody, and welcome to another segment. We are here with a very huge Lakers fan, one of my best friends. Jacob, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining us. It's great to have you here. Me and Noah are very happy that you're here. To start off, I would like to hear your thoughts on the 2022-2023 Los Angeles Lakers.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Honored to be here with you and Noah. Miss you guys, so definitely gotta catch up in person soon. So my thoughts on the Lakers, it's a lot of thoughts. And some good, some bad, a lot of confusion, I would say. If I had one word to describe the Lakers, I'm just confused because there's a lot that can go wrong and there's a lot that can go right and everything in between. My general thoughts, I'm cautiously optimistic with our new coach, Darvin Ham, and with some of our free agent acquisitions. I think the big trend of the summer for Rob Pelinka was, he went into last season adding a bunch of old veterans, and he completely changed that philosophy this offseason. He tried to get younger and faster and more athletic, and I think, that'll help in an 82-game season. I'm sure we'll go into it. I still think this roster has a couple major weaknesses, but we'll see. I don't feel great. I don't feel awful. I'm kind of between, and I'm just awaiting the Russ situation, seeing what happens with that, and there's a lot I think that still has to unfold with this roster.
I thought it was really interesting the other day when Russell Westbrook was in the news kind of regarding that he was going to be taking a bench role. To me, it kind of seemed like a good move because that's just the type of player he is when he's on the court. He needs the ball, he needs to score, he needs to get to the rim, he needs to gain momentum, heat up during the game. That's just kind of who he is. And I think playing when LeBron and obviously Anthony Davis and everyone else are not on the court, he can have the ball in his hands. I think that's where he's going to flourish. But Jacob and Tyler, I would love your opinions on kind of just like your season outlook, I guess, and this division that they're in. It's pretty brutal with the Warriors, the Clippers, the Suns, the Lakers, and the Kings. And the only team that's, I know it's preseason, but the only team that's undefeated in preseason right now are the Kings. So what are your thoughts on that?
Sorry, shout out Leo Talkman at the Kings. I'm sure you'll get him on at some point, give you some Kings bias. I'll just go first. I think you have to separate it because like I said, there's so many different scenarios with this Lakers team, and I think we have such a different outcome if you take one injury away or you take one guy away and you look at it from different perspectives. Personally, I think if you look at a best case scenario as currently constructed, I think this roster, best case, everyone's healthy, AD's healthy, LeBron doesn't show any decline. I think they could be a 5th seed best case scenario if everything goes right. And I'm not saying it's going to. I think it's unlikely that, everyone stays healthy or that there's no issues with Russ or that Russ really buys into his role, limits the bad shots, plays some decent point of attack defense. So best case 5 seed. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I think worst case, like we saw last year, like a 10 or 11 seed, there's injuries. Russ is an issue both on the court and in the locker room. Free agent acquisitions, like I said before, while they are athletic and younger, we still have 3-point shooting as a major weakness, especially from the 3 and 4 positions. So I think it's kind of in that range. Now, if we're talking, which I'm sure we'll get to, if there's a Russ trade, that completely changes it. But as currently constructed, I think worst case 10, 11 seed, best case 5th seed.
I don't really disagree. As we talked about in the last segment, the Warriors segment, I really think that the Warriors on paper by far have the best roster in that division. And I think that division, honestly, all comes down to coaching. I think, we know Steve Kerr, top-notch coach. No one in the game has been a better coach in this decade, maybe other than Phil Jackson when Phil Jackson was coaching. I don't know. I think the Lakers are in the middle of the pack. They have the talent, but there's a lot of question marks around the talent that they have that they'll put out there, trying to fight for that playoff spot. They're going to need to find certain roles for certain players really quickly when the season starts, and it's going to come down to if the players are willing to play with each other or not, especially on the defensive end. That's going to be really important for the Lakers because in the past few years, they haven't really been a transition offense type of team. They've more, given the ball to LeBron, slowed down the offense and tried to find ways to win that way. And I think they're going to have to find a lot more transition points this year to be a successful team.
I agree. I think that the Lakers, I think at best, in my full opinion, I do think it is going to be around that 5-6 area, maybe a 4. Obviously everything goes right, but nothing's ever perfect. So I'm imagining it's probably going to be a 6 seed or lower, maybe even a play-in tournament appearance. I just think the West is still brutal, and I do like where the Lakers are going and the direction that they're going. I know last offseason we were talking about how this was a super team and that they were getting all these veterans. They were going to run a ring. It was going to be just their year. LeBron again was going to win. But what we saw was that completely failed. They trashed that, and now they have a completely different team almost. And I really think that this team is going to be better than they were last year. Obviously, they got younger. They got more shooters. They got Patrick Beverley on the defensive end, who they acquired. They also got Lonnie Walker. And I think they have guys. They added at positions they needed. And that's where I think this team really improved. But I think going into the season, I think all the fans are probably looking just for improvement. I don't know how many fans are going to be expecting an NBA championship right now, but I think you can in the next couple of years if the direction keeps going the way it is, and obviously free agency is a thing, and hopefully there will be some moves because I kind of am on the side of I want to see Russell Westbrook in another jersey. Like I think that he deserves another shot somewhere else in a system that kind of caters to him, because paying $47 million for a bench player is not a real recipe for ultimate success, and especially not with LeBron.
I agree with that. But Jacob, I want to start a different topic right now, and I want to hear your thoughts on Russell Westbrook coming off the bench. What is your perspective of that? Do you think it's a good move by the Lakers? What are your ideas?
I'm going to give you an answer that's not going to excite you, but I'm going to say I don't think it matters much, because I still think at the end of the day, Russ is going to be Russ. He was in OKC. It was a superstar. We saw that he went to Houston and it was just absolutely atrocious in the bubble. We saw him go to Washington. We saw him come to LA. There's always all these grand ideas and talk about, oh, Russ is going to do that. Russ is going to do this. At the end of the day, Russ is still going to be Russ. And I don't think it matters whether he starts or comes off the bench. He's still going to play significant minutes. Now, if we're talking about Russ not finishing games, that's a completely different story. If he's not not on the court for the last 4 or 5 minutes of the game, now that's something that I agree with, and I think that's something that's needed. I think there are 3 better options to close out a game than Russ currently. I still think he's going to start. I think this is just Darvin Ham, new coach, playing around. He knows, what the public thinks of Westbrook. He probably knows what LeBron thinks of Westbrook. And I think he's just kind of moving around. And I think it's smart on his part to do it now in the preseason. There's going to be much less drama about it than if he does it, midway through the season, where they did that too late last year. I think if you establish this precedent that occasionally, depending on the matchup, Russ is going to come off the bench, it helps with the locker room dynamic. It helps with Russ's ego, with the team cohesion. I don't think it'll make that much difference on the basketball court. I think the sole logic behind it is that you want to stagger LeBron's minutes and Russ's minutes and just have, Russ out there when Bron's not out there to run the offense, score some points, push the pace. Honestly, I don't think it makes that much of a difference either way, unless we're talking about sitting him, in the final minutes of a game.
I agree with basically everything Jacob said. I just wanted to add in that Russell Wilson, oh my God. I'm going to cut that. Okay. Russell Westbrook staggering minutes with LeBron is, I think, exactly what the team needs and what they want, because obviously Russ and LeBron, they just can't play together. It's different. Obviously, two different positions, two different players. But looking at the upcoming season, I think staggering their minutes will be perfect. You know, in some way, I don't know why it reminds me of like the whole Rudy Gobert and Cat thing, where I believe it was Cat who said the opposing team would have to deal with Rudy Gobert or Cat at all times during the game. Like not one of them is going to come off the court at the same time. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting. But also, I just want to hear your perspective on, I guess, like the whole cap situation. I know that we keep talking about Russell Westbrook and how $47 million. Obviously it's his last year of his player option, but do you feel okay paying a guy like that to come off the bench? I mean, even though he could probably still get 40 minutes a game almost.
Yeah, because that's the situation they've put us in, and that LeBron put the Lakers in. Because if we remember, it's LeBron and his people who sat down at his summer mansion and met with DeMar, met with Dave, met with Russell Westbrook, and decided that this was going to work. Pelinka wanted Buddy, his old client, back from his agent days, and LeBron went ahead and played his hand and got Russ onto the Lakers, and he's responsible for his own demise. But this is the current situation we find ourselves in. It's the reality, and we got to do whatever we can to maximize whatever LeBron has left. Obviously, there's the possibility of a trade, that Pacers trade, but if that doesn't happen, you got to figure out what to do with Russ. And they've talked about his new shooting form. They talked about he's going to cut down on the bad shots. It's the same BS every offseason. Russ is still going to be Russ. So, I'm fine paying him that much to do whatever, because we're already going to be paying him that much. So might as well try and maximize him. Thank God that he's on a expiring deal, and thank God that we could trade that expiring deal, and maybe hook up with a couple other teams that would be interested in an expiring deal and some draft compensation. But I have to be okay with it because we don't have any other options.
So on another topic here, of your roster, who do you have the most expectations for? I mean, obviously you have LeBron and Pat Bev, you have defensively, but who do you have surprisingly more expectations than you thought you would have, and why do you have those expectations?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think there's a couple guys that come to mind. I think we all know what Pat Bev is, so I don't necessarily have expectations outside of what we know that he is. He's gonna play, really good perimeter defense. He's gonna be a great locker room presence. He's gonna be on LeBron, making sure LeBron doesn't slack off, which is great. He's gonna shoot threes decently. What is he, like I know last year was a down year, but couple years before, he was consistently, I think, like 37% from three on 3 or 4 attempts. So like he's perfect. So I wouldn't say I have big expectations for Pat Bev. He's just a perfect role player, and a great addition. I think a lot of people forget that we're getting K Nunn back, Kendrick Nunn. I think he's looked pretty good, just the way he's moving this preseason. I think I forgot personally how fast he was. I think it'll be really nice to have him in the second unit, and maybe even some days going small if he's shooting well starting at the 2. So I have some expectations for Kendrick Nunn to kind of come back in, work his way in, make threes, push the pace, score off the bench. I have personally very low expectations for Lonnie Walker. I don't know if we'll get into this later, but I hated the signing. I still do. He's one of the worst perimeter defenders in the league, and he's a horrible shooter, both off the dribble and catch and shoot. He's not a 3-point shooter. He's He's not an elite defender. We use the mid-level exception, like $6.5 million for him. I personally wanted Otto Porter, but that didn't happen. And I think that was one of Rob's biggest mistakes. He thought, we need to get another young guy who can potentially break out this year. Last year, it was taking a flyer on Malik Monk, and it worked out very well. But the difference is, while Malik Monk still is a poor defender, he's a decent shooter, shooting like a 40% clip from three. Lonnie is not that. I don't think he fits the team at all, other than he brings some more athleticism. He's fast and he can, kind of set the pace off the bench. But I don't even think he cracks the 10-man rotation right now. I think there's going to be a lot of different guys coming in and out of the two position for us. But, I personally have Pat Bev, if we're counting him as the two next to Westbrook. I have him above. I think none could be above him. Reeves for sure. So, I don't have high expectations for him. But then the rest of the roster, it's interesting. I mean, it's Troy Brown. It's not really on my radar. I think he's not really in the rotation. I think JTA Juan Toscano Anderson could be really interesting, playing some solid perimeter defense. After that, it's not that many guys. I think it's a lot of role players that hopefully can shoot decently or a little bit above what they've done. I think Thomas Bryant coming back from injury is a solid, low risk, high reward play. I think he shoots 35% from three. He actually originally was identified by the Lakers. I think we got him as an undrafted free agent. He eventually lost out to Ivica Zubac back in training camp years ago, and we waived him. But I think he's going to start at the five for us, space the floor, rebound. So yeah, I think it's a little hard to get excited about some of these role players, but I think they fit some needs for us that we really needed last year.
Here's my big question, and I've wanted to hear it because I know my high school teams played this guy, and in high school, I know there's been a lot of speculation with him being drafted by you guys, but shout out Chicago, shout out Rolling Meadows High School. What are your thoughts on Max Christie? Do you think he's gonna break a spot in the rotation, or do you think he's gonna have a lot of time in the G League this year?
Yeah, I don't think he'll be getting any minutes in rotation. I mean, he's still incredibly young and raw. He had some good moves in the preseason. I really like his jumper. I like some of his footwork, but I think he's just going to be kind of chilling there, playing in the G League, and the Lakers will develop him. I'm sure at some point we'll include him in some trade conversations, as they always do. But yeah, that's kind of what he's going to be doing this season. So it's probably similar to THT's rookie season, but I still think THT is more developed as a prospect at that point than Christie is at this point.
So there's been a lot of rumors that he looks like young Kobe Bryant, how he's gonna be the next Kobe Bryant. But yeah, I don't know. I agree with you. I think it will be better for him to at least spend this year in the G League, get some experience within the professional level and how the professional levels really run. Just because, I don't know, I think he could have used another year at Michigan State and got that kind of leadership aspect at the college level before he came here and came to the NBA and went to the Lakers. But I don't know. I think he's gonna have a experienced year and learn a lot of lessons. And I think once LeBron leaves, he might be the guy to rebuild around, but who knows?
So Tyler and Jacob, I would just love to hear you guys' opinion on just kind of what do you guys think of how the Lakers organization has fully changed since winning the NBA Finals in 2020 and all the coaching changes, all the executive changes, all the player changes, what do you guys think?
I think the Lakers are masters of change, and that can be a good thing, and a lot of times it's a bad thing. If you think since the bubble, every team literally has been a different team. The bubble team, we were the number one defense in the league. You had, at the time, some very solid perimeter defenders, Danny Green, KCP, and who were also decent shooters, Avery Bradley. You kind of had LeBron really running the point with Rondo off the bench. And then you kind of had the twin towers with Dwight and JaVale next to AD. And they really had the perfect, potent defense to win the championship. And that was Frank Vogel's bread and butter. Then you kind of saw them change it up a little bit the next season where they went out and shipped off Danny Green and a pick to OKC for Schroeder. And you saw them replace the centers and get Marc Gasol and Montrez off the bench for different looks and more offense, trying to space the floor with Mark, and then trying to have some scoring off the bench and eat up some more regular season minutes with Harrell. And that a lot of people forget we were the number one seed for a while till the injuries. And I think that 5-man team of Schroeder, KCP, AD, Bron, and Gasol had the highest net rating up until those injuries. And then the injuries just derailed them, and including in that Phoenix series. Then you saw them change it again with the awful trade for Russ and going with all the aging veterans. And now you see a whole new team. And that's kind of the Lakers' MO. They pivot, and the one thing they don't lack is confidence. If the Lakers organization will go big or go home and just seek to change what they see fit, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. And, we'll kind of see what happens this season.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, especially after winning the finals and then the organization kind of spiraling in the wrong direction, I think it was the right move to let Frank Vogel go. But I think it's good to have a fresh start with a decently new roster and have a locker room change. And the game planning is going to be a little bit different, so people are going to see the rosters differently at the start of the season. No one's really going to know where people stand within the roster, or not even that, but the organization, just because it's so open and new. So I think the coaching change is a good fit for where the organization was at. And I think a new start this year will give a different look for the roster, and hopefully it will bring some good luck to this new roster and help LeBron kind of facilitate a little bit better throughout the locker room.
Definitely, and I love that. So I kind of want to go into another subject here. So this is a question for both of you. What do you guys think of a potential Russell Westbrook trade? Where would he go? What would the Lakers get back? And why do you feel like this would be the right deal?
Yes, that's all I have to say. Next topic. I'm just kidding. My personal belief is that a Russ trade would be an addition by subtraction. And then, specifically, if we look at suitors, obviously Indiana, for good reason, is the team that's brought up most often by Shams and Woj, not by Chris Haynes, because Chris Haynes has no sources. But I think Indiana makes a lot of sense for a couple reasons. You've got Tyrese there. They're going to rebuild around him. We all know that team, this current team has constructed, might not even make the playoffs. So if you're Indiana, you're looking at Russ. You don't care about Russ for Russ. You care about a big expiring contract, and it lets you do a few things. It lets you get Buddy Hield's contract off of their books for next year, which they've been wanting to do for a while now. So that's one reason. Clear some cap space for next year. Two, we all know they've flirted with Miles Turner and trading him for what feels like a decade now. If we take a quick look back a couple months ago, we know that they signed Ayton, who's a restricted free agent, to an offer sheet. I'm sure that didn't make Miles Turner feel good, and we've known they've tried to trade Miles, and he's going to be an unrestricted free agent next year, so they risk losing him for nothing. So if you can get back some draft compensation and not lose Miles for nothing. That's valuable. So that's 2 reasons. Number 3 is the draft compensation. I'm of the opinion that those Lakers 2027 picks and 2029 picks, which are the only 2 they can trade, I think they'll be very, very valuable, especially if they're unprotected. We all know LeBron is aging. By then, AD will be pretty old too. I think it's very reminiscent of a not as drastic, but the pick situation is reminiscent of when the Lakers went all in 2012 for Nash and Dwight. Those picks ended up being, somewhat valuable because the Lakers weren't good, right? Like those years. So I think a lot of teams would be interested in those late 2020, 2027, 2029 picks just because of how, bad the Lakers will be then or how uncertain what the roster looks like. The last reason I think it makes sense from Indiana's perspective is that, we all know who's going to be taken number 1 this year. It's going to be a race to the bottom. I think if you're Indiana and you're going to commit to a full rebuild, you'd really like to lose as many games as possible and get Victor. And, even though they're not going to make the playoffs, Buddy Hield and Miles Turner are still decent NBA players. They're going to win some games. And I think if you can trade those 2 guys, get Buddy off your cap space next year, right? You clear your books, you get rid of Miles, and you get back some compensation instead of, losing him for nothing next summer. And then you really lose some games and tank, whether you're playing Russ or you buy him out. It's kind of a win-win situation for the Pacers. I think if from the Lakers' perspective, it obviously makes sense. I mean, if you dream of a center to play next to AD and LeBron, and I don't think you could, if you were going to create one, he would be in the exact mold of Miles Turner. I don't think you could create anyone with a better fit. You got a guy who's an elite interior defender. He can finish around the rim. He's not the best rebounder, but it doesn't matter because you have LeBron and AD. He spaces the floor. And he fits perfectly there. Like I said, the Lakers used to have that twin tower model with JaVale and AD. Miles would be a completely better iteration of that, who can space the floor. So he fits in perfectly. And then Buddy would automatically be the best shooter LeBron's had on the Lakers. And that's all that needs to be said about that. Obviously, he has not the best defense, but I think Pat Bev then at the 1 really covers up some of those weaknesses. So personally, I think if they're able to do that trade, that brings them into a contender status. I can't think of a better fit for either team, truthfully. I think, and then finally, I really think the last team that might be interested is Charlotte. I don't think they're going to be very good this year. I think maybe they would like to get Gordon Hayward off their books. And I think there might be some framework to work out there, but I think the Pacers deal is definitely the best one. It's just whether LA wants to include that second first-round pick or not. Maybe there's some room at the deadline, or hopefully before then if you're the Lakers, where if the Lakers aren't doing well and the Pacers really want to tank, maybe you can work out an unprotected first, and then a pick swap. But, if you're the Lakers, you might just have to do the 2 unprotected first and just get that deal done.
Didn't Gordon Hayward just get hurt?
Oh, man, I didn't see that. I'm not on the Charlotte buzz. So if you're saying that, he probably did. I hope he's okay.
He might. I was watching their last preseason game, and I think he might have just hurt his leg again.
I hope he's not hurt.
But yeah, I'm not 100% on that. But yeah, I don't know. I think there are a lot of options for the Lakers to get rid of that Russ contract. And I don't know. I'm obviously a Bulls fan, so I don't really know. I want to get rid of Kobe White and Vooch, but it's not as hectic of contracts that Russell Westbrook has. So we'll have to see where that goes. And we'll see. We'll see if the Lakers can stay healthy this year. But, I mean, I want to ask Noah and Jacob, I want to ask you too this. But I know me and Noah have talked about this a lot in previous, not just segments, but we talked about it in our first episode of the podcast. Do you guys see LeBron's LeBron's age catching up to him, or the talent level in the NBA starting to catch up to him? Because I feel like as years go on, the talent level is growing and the athleticism is getting better. And I think for some guys that are at those older ages in the NBA, it's starting to catch up to them. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this.
I personally do not think that it's catching up to LeBron. I honestly, I think he's gotten better. Obviously you could say that he's had 4 different stints in his career, obviously Cleveland and Miami, back to Cleveland, and now in LA. I believe that, when you spend over $1 million a year on your body just to keep you in shape, and, obviously he's watching everything he's putting into his body, watching everything he does, and he's probably one of the most monitored people on this earth, to be honest. And I don't think that it's catching up to him. I think that he's one of the smartest players on the court of all times, and it it takes a special type of basketball player, and it takes more than skill to beat that type of player when you have a guy with a mind like LeBron. And obviously, it's even crazier because obviously Anthony Davis is coming, or excuse me, Anthony Davis is getting older, and I can remember when Anthony Davis came into the league, how skinny he was. Even Giannis, like how small he was. And I think nowadays when you have these superstars spending this type of money on their own body, and also the teams making sure that they're taking care of their own bodies, their health is good, and they get different sponsorships and stuff every day. But I think it's really hard to say that it's catching up to him when he continues to produce. Obviously the team is different than him individually, but I personally don't think that age has gotten to him.
Yeah, I agree. I think what's pretty amazing, if you look at the NBA as a whole, LeBron's probably still in the top 1, 2, 3% of most athletic. I mean, he's still up there. He's still having crazy in-game dunks. He's a freak of nature. Um, I don't know if it's more so of the NBA catching up to him, or more so that maybe there's some natural decline due to his age. Um, where he's not maybe a top 3 player, but he's a top 5 or top 8 player. I don't know. I still think he's been able to refine his game a lot in LA, where he relies on some post ups. He's taking some more deep threes than he used to earlier in his career. So he knows his body, and he's still LeBron. I don't think it's as much for an issue right now. Knock on wood. I don't want to jinx anything, but he's still playing like an all-star level talent, and he's really just a freak of nature. It's pretty crazy because it's this is what we expect, but no player plays at this level for this long, and I think barring an injury, I still think he's going to be playing at a very high level.
I agree. Yeah. But like Jacob just said, and what I was kind of talking about, it really takes a lot to beat up on these guys nowadays, and especially with the new technology and what we're seeing. And it's become apparent that it is easier to take care of your body and protect the longevity. Obviously, having less major injuries helps. Obviously the best ability is availability, right? Because the fact that you're on the court playing at a high level at all times, you don't have that thing in the back of your head that's like, oh wait, like maybe you should take a second. You hurt your knee that one time, like that the mental aspect is something that a lot of players have talked about, obviously with John Wall, and it's a little different, but mental aspect of the game has obviously affected players. And I think when it comes to guys like this, sorry, I'm getting to the point. When it comes to guys like this, the longevity of the game isn't going to affect them as much as it would to a regular player when you're spending that type of money and that type of care that's coming out now.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that it's not catching up to him, but I also think I don't know. I think the talent level is now an expectation that it's just growing at the rate it is. And that's the thing. As we see as we see LeBron's contract coming to an end closer and closer each year, do I mean, Jacob, as a Lakers fan, and I don't know still if you'll have an opinion about this, but just the expectations of LeBron knowing that he's going to look at whoever his son goes to when his son comes to the NBA and making a decision based off of when his youngest son comes in the league, because I know he's been talking about wanting to play with both of them. Do you, as a Lakers fan, have a mentality that LeBron more is thinking more about his future? Is LeBron's head in the right now trying to win a championship? Is he going to be able to lead this roster to a championship? As a fan perspective, where do you see LeBron's mindset with all of this coming into mind, as he looks so much into the future rather than just talking about the now and being in the now?
Yeah, I think it's been on LeBron's mind for the past couple of years now, and I don't think he's as locked in as he was, earlier in his career. And I can't blame him. I think in his mind, he's probably accomplished everything that he wants. Obviously, more championships would be great, but I think in his mind, he says to himself that he's the GOAT and he's won a championship at each stop. And I don't think he cares what anyone else has to say at this point in his career. And he's been around the block enough times to just know at this point he's going to do what LeBron wants. And I think what LeBron wants is to, hopefully do well with the Lakers and play well. But I think he's just, waiting out and ready to play with his son when he gets that opportunity. And maybe he doesn't leave the Lakers. Maybe his son kind of just wants to be out on his own and do his own thing. But I think that's been a dream of his, and I think it would be very hard for us to acquire his son. So I think there's definitely a real shot he leaves at some point and goes to play with his son wherever that may be. But on his mindset, I think he's excited to play another season, and I think he's excited to have AD back healthy. I'm sure he probably is kicking himself over the Russ trade and isn't happy about that. I mean, it definitely was awkward in Vegas when the two of them were sitting at opposite ends of court, didn't acknowledge each other. So I think he kind of just knows. I think if this was earlier, LeBron, you would have seen worse body language. You would have seen him a little bit more upset, but I think he's at the tail end of his career, and he knows he's got a whole another career ahead of him, being an owner of a soccer team and his production company. I don't think he's as locked in as before, and I think that's okay. He's probably earned that right.
Don't forget about even more within this conversation, talking about how LeBron, there were rumors about when the Suns owner got all this stuff on top of him, that there were rumors that LeBron wanted to get traded to the Suns to play with Booker and CP3 and be the owner there. And he also possibly said that he would want to be an owner in Seattle if they ever extended a team in Seattle. So I think that's really interesting that, there's so much gossip around his name other than just him going to the media and talking about this year in general and having a mindset of just winning games this year, other than thinking about 5 years ahead and talking about playing with his son. Even though that's a goal, I don't know how much I'd be talking to the media about that in the right now. So that's why I was asking that question. And Noah, if you want to jump in and add any comments, you're more than welcome to.
I mean, I think you guys kind of hit the nail on the head. I'm pretty on the same. I'm pretty much on the same wavelength as I think that eventually we are going to see LeBron playing with his sons, but I think that's at the obviously at the later end of his career. I don't think that's now. Obviously, right now he's focused on his Lakers and he's focused on finishing his job here, and obviously this upcoming season, obviously he needs to also kind of figure out what he wants to do with Russ and these contracts that he has, a bunch of 1-year deals. So I think that's pretty interesting, and that's something that obviously he's going to deal with and he'll make the decision on. But I kind of want to talk about the rival team in your own city. What do you think about them, and do you have any comments, or I guess what are your expectations on them?
Yeah, I think a lot of Lakers fans are gonna be unhappy with me, but I've always been very realistic. I truthfully think that the Clippers have the best roster in the NBA, maybe except for the Celtics. They're just deep at every position except I think center. But their second unit is really great second unit. I mean, the fact that they could have, I saw it was announced today that Reggie Jackson's going to be the starting point guard for them, and you're going to have John Wall off the bench. I think that's a great guard rotation, point guard rotation, and then to have a healthy Kawhi and Paul George, it's one of the best 1-2 punches, and then round it out with Batum, who can space the floor, and Zubac, who can give them good 20 minutes a game, playing some good defense and rebounding. And then that bench is just insane to have Marcus Morris, Robert Covington, and Norman Powell off the bench. I mean, that's a championship winning contender. They are the Clippers, so I'm sure there's all the second round jokes, and believe me, I've done them before. I'm a Lakers fan, but I fully expect the Clippers to kind of steamroll the West. I personally don't think the West is really that hard this year. Anything special. I think the Warriors are going to be worse this year, losing a couple guys. The Nuggets don't scare me. They only have 2 guys who can play defense, KCP and Bruce Brown, and I really don't see any threat to the Clippers unless the Lakers can get that Russ trade done. So I think the Clippers, as much as it pains me to say as a Lakers fan, I think the Clippers will be representing the West in the finals.
You're totally forgetting about the Warriors. I think the Warriors are personally going to run the West. And I think, even though there's this whole Draymond Green situation that's extended into an actual exhibition game in the preseason, with Jordan Poole and Draymond Green, I think they'll figure out what they need to do. And I don't know. I think it's all going to come down to coaching. I think Steve Kerr in the late end of games is a better situational coach than Ty Lue. And I think the Warriors will be able to fix up more mistakes in the end of games than the Clippers. But I think in that series, it comes down to who's the better coach. And I think Steve Kerr overall has been a better coach throughout his coaching career and throughout Ty Lue's coaching career. But we'll see what happens. I'm not too high or low on the Clippers. I think they have all the talent in the world, and I think they have a shot to win the West. But I really think it's going to come down to coaching, and I just don't know if Ty Lue's that guy to be able to lead them there.
I completely agree, and I have them as my number 2 seed out of the West. But I do not like Ty Lue as the head coach. Again, I agree with you, Tyler, on what you just said about Ty Lue. He's just not the guy, and I do not feel that with him under the helm that they're going to be a serious threat, obviously. But I think their team alone is a great team, but I think Ty Lue brings them down just a little bit. Obviously, there are better coaches in the West. At the bottom of the West, you have Greg Popovich. So, I mean, that's just kind of where I stand on it. But yeah,
I think people forget how good a healthy Kawhi Leonard is because it's been a couple years. And I take no pleasure out of this, but he is easily a top 3, top 4 player when healthy. We don't know if he will be. Obviously, all the injury questions, but they're a dangerous team, and I see the East is so much stronger this year, especially the top half. So it'll be interesting. Of course, it's the Clippers. It'd be hilarious if they lost in the second round again. They just, can't get past it. But I expect them to be there probably in the Western Conference Championship, probably against the Warriors. But they're such a complete team. So I think it would be really hard for them not to go very far.
I don't disagree. I think they'll make the Western Conference Finals, but I don't know. I don't think Kawhi's a LeBron James where LeBron at any moment can open his mouth and have a say in what the organization does. I just don't think Kawhi's that type of person. And even though Kawhi has the talent to do that, obviously he showed he has the talent in Toronto to do that. But I don't know. I think there's so much more talent around him that he's going to lose some sense of, because he doesn't have the ball so much in his hands, what certain situations are. And as you said, he hasn't played for two years, so who knows? He's going to be pretty rusty, and there's going to be a lot that he's going to have to pick up really quickly, especially as a captain of the team, to really think about that he's missed for 2 years, and he's missed those situational plays that he had to make in his prime before he got hurt. Which I'm not saying he's not out of he is out of his prime right now, but it's going to come down to how rusty is he, and can he play through those situations that he may not have played in 2 years. Can he make those plays that will win him a championship is the real question.
I just want to jump in here and add this quick point that I don't know if enough people are talking about. So as a Hawks fan, I'm a pretty big Hawks fan. I know the assistant coaches, I know the head coaches, I know the players, salaries, executive team, and all that. But the Lakers signed Chris Gent this offseason, and I think it's one of the best moves that they've made this offseason. I believe he's credited with developing John Collins' career and really taking it to the next level. And there's a bunch of guys that he has coached that have been there and who have been amazing role players. And I think that's something that isn't being talked about enough. But I just wanted to mention it and, put it on the record that Christian is a really good assistant coach. He was named the Lakers' top assistant for a reason. And it wouldn't shock me if the power forward center positions for the Lakers take a big leap this year because of him.
I love to hear it. I remember when he was hired, there were some Lakers, Twitter people and personalities who were very happy. So I think it'll be really interesting to have him. I know him and Ham have a lot of praise from around the league. One of the reasons we got Dennis Schroeder was because of his experience with Ham and then some of the guys on his coaching staff. So I think I'm cautiously optimistic. As much as personally, I don't think Frank deserves to have been fired. A lot of those moves and personnel moves were out of his control. I do think that the offense was very lacking under Frank, and I think some of the guys they brought in will be a breath of fresh air. And I think they really, really need it. They're going to have their work cut out for them for us. So, but I appreciate that. So I'm excited for him.
I'm for sure excited to see what is to come for the 2022-2023 Lakers. I think it will be interesting to see They have Ross, they have Pat Bev, they have all these guys that have their individual goals that they've accomplished in the NBA. And I think even though you guys are a young core that you guys have the experience to win a championship. So we'll see, if the Lakers will make the moves, if the Lakers won't make moves, and the experience will help. Um, and it's to see in about a week when the NBA starts, which I'm super excited about it. It's coming up quick, and I can't believe another year of NBA basketball is about to start on Wednesday. So, Jacob, it was a blast having you on our podcast, and we loved having you. But we are gonna wrap up the segment of quietly balling. It was great talking about the 2022-2023 Los Angeles Lakers, and we'll see you guys all next time. Thank you guys for viewing, and hope you guys enjoyed.